Hey, greetings, my friends. It's Sam Collins, your coding and billing expert for Acupuncture U, and of course, the American Acupuncture Council, giving you another episode here. And what I want to talk about today is a lot of questions I've been getting recently about what are the different meanings of terms and understanding. I think this is often affecting our reimbursements. And so I want to go through some of the terms, what they mean to make sure there's a clear understanding, because I'm finding often there's a lot of misunderstanding. And because of that, it creates some problems on collection. So let's go to the slides. Let's talk about understanding insurance and the billing language that's associated with it in the terms. Because, like with everything, the better you can express or understand, the better we like to get paid, because I think it's going to create problems with reimbursements. Let's talk about first what the heck is health insurance. It's a contract between the patient and an insurance company. Often remember that contract is not between us, meaning the doctor and the patient, but the insurance and the patient. So ultimately, with insurance, that's their contract. If it doesn't pay, that means the patient owes, unless you're in network. So understand, health insurance is a contract not between the doctor and the insurance company, but the patient and the insurance company. Now, we may be part of that if you're a network to some extent, but ultimately it's their contract. What I want to hit on, though, is it really health insurance? I mean, there's preventative things, screenings, but is it really health insurance or is it sick insurance? And I think from an acupuncture standpoint, it's often important to think of it, there's got to be something wrong. There's got to be something where they're sick, they're in pain, or they're dysfunction. Otherwise, it's not going to pay. Now, what type of insurance are we talking about? What are we going to see patients with? Well, we all know HMOs, Health Maintenance Organization. This is a type of a plan that essentially the patient has to go to an in-network provider. Now, the benefit here is it's generally going to be cheaper, but they're limited to go to just those providers. You must stay in network. If you go out of network, not covering, maybe in an emergency. Now, the reason this is chosen by many people, it's just frankly lower premiums and copays because the insurance company gets to control the doctors, where they go. So these are the lowest. This is also the lowest in reimbursement for Acu. Now, you may think, can acupuncturists really join an HMO? Not directly, frankly, but often you join tangentially through joining groups like American Specialty Health. That often gives access to things like HealthNet or Kaiser and so forth. So again, these will get access, but they pay very little. So we got to be careful if you're in these. Is the reimbursement going to be very high? No, this is going to be a volume thing, not really one that's a fee for service. Now, what about a so-called PPO or preferred provider? Well, this plan allows access to patients to go to in-network providers, but it says preferred. So if you go to the preferred doctor, that's good. It's cheaper, but you can also go outside. So you can access other doctors, but when they do, or the patient does it, I should say, they're going to have more out of pocket. So by example, if you're not in network with the plan, can the patient still choose to come to you? Oh, absolutely. But the plan may pay less, may have a higher deductible and so forth. So they're going to realize lesser out of pocket if they go in network. Out of network may be more, but maybe the value's there. So this is why many of us will join a PPO with the idea of getting more patients in. But do remember, when you're part of it, that means you're accepting a lesser amount. You may not balance bill your full rate. So patients still have a choice of providers, but it's going to be cheaper if they go in network, hence why many times we join. Now, of course, it's greater choice in the HMO, but a little bit greater cost in premiums. I won't say often a lot more, but certainly more. Now, here's one that's unusual, or I shouldn't say unusual, but is often misunderstood. An exclusive provider organization. Now, you're going to think, what is that, exclusive? It's really an HMO, but it's a very small HMO. It's going to be a group of doctors or clinics that all group together, sometimes an independent physician association or IPA, and they don't offer any out-of-network benefits. Now, these often can be less expensive, but it really limits where the patient can go. Generally, the only way they're going to get acupuncture on this plan is if they have a direct referral, because actually the insurance doesn't cover it. It has to be paid by the group, so they're often not pushing out a lot of people. This is not a very common policy, but they're out there for some companies will do these because they figure it's going to give greater access and cheaper for them and more access to their patients if there's enough providers in their area. Now, the one plan I think we all prefer, it's the most expensive, is a traditional fee-for-service plan. This is your traditional insurance. It's not a PPO or an HMO, but one that just simply has a simple deductible and pays 80/20 or whatever the case may be. This is the most expensive plan. Patients will have lower deductibles and co-insurance. I, by example, have one of these plans. My company is very good to me. They give me a good rate here. I have no deductible and I have no out of pocket. You're going to think, how does that happen? It's very expensive. These have the highest. In fact, I have a platinum. Here's what I'm pointing out. If someone comes to you with a platinum program, even if you're not thinking you want to take insurance, this is probably one you do, because these offer the most generous benefits, less out of pocket, so forth, because it'll simply just pay more. Bigger companies often offer these because they can buy it because they're buying a little bit bigger in bulk. These are fantastic. Now, if it's a platinum, it's great, but if it's a bronze policy, maybe not as good. So keep in mind, fee for service is not as common because it's more expensive, but obviously the one preferred from a provider standpoint because it just pays better. But here's the terms I want to get into. When you hear allowed amount, the plan pays 80%, don't be fooled, because it's 80% of what? This is where you have to be careful. Allowed doesn't mean what you billed. It means what they allowed. So they're going to have a maximum that will be paid. So let's say you bill $100, but the plan only allows 50. That means they're going to pay 80% of 50, which means they're going to pay $40. Now, because you billed 100, what will you be looking from the patient? $60, because remember, you're not in their network. So be careful with the allowed amount, because patients will say, it pays 80%. Yeah, 80% of what? Now, if you're billing within their range, maybe, but many times you might have a fee that's much higher. And let's keep in mind, can you just write off a billed amount when you're out of network? Technically, no, you're to collect it. So be careful. Now, what about a health savings accounts? These are pretty good. They're not as popular as I think they should be, but what these are, a patient can set aside money, pre-tax dollars, for medical expenses, and they can use it for qualified medical expenses. These I like. This is something that if your patients have these, this is something to let people know. Do you accept HSAs? I would say you do, because when they come in, the patient will pay you. You give them a receipt, they submit it, and assuming that they have some type of benefit towards it, they'll cover it. I've seen them cover things that often aren't covered anyplace else, such as just simple massage for nothing else. It's tax-free when they use it. So for a lot of people, it's something that's a good thing, but it's one that they have to have enough money to do that. You'll often see this where people have high deductible policies. It makes sense to do that. There is something else, though, that people will see that's called an FSA. And they think, FSA is one through the employer. They call it flexible. I'll say forced. In other words, the company does it, but you can only use it towards out-of-pocket expenses. So it only pays for like the deductibles and the co-pays. It doesn't allow them just to choose care. HSAs, great. They can come in directly to you. Now, here's something else that is often misunderstood. What about deductibles? Well, deductible, of course, I'm sure you're understanding the traditional deductible. It's $1,000. In other words, the patient has to pay $1,000 before the insurance begins to cover. In other words, they're going to look at the cover to cost. And once it adds up to $1,000, then, of course, the insurance begins payment. Keep in mind, the patient doesn't have to pay it all at once. They could be paying over time, but they have to meet that amount. Now, here's the parts where it's confusing. Some services may not be included. There are going to be times you're going to bill, and your bill may be $500, but maybe the insurance only allows $200. So even though you've billed $500, $200 applies towards deductible, but there's $300 that's not covered. How much does the patient owe you? $500. So when you start billing, be careful of what you're billing. The intention is you're collecting it. So you can't just bill a high amount saying, well, we'll see what's going to happen. This is why you want to be careful. Do not set your fees off of your highest based insurance, but not necessarily your lowest, because you want to be somewhere in the middle. But deductibles can fool you. So keep in mind, if you're billing $1,000, $500 is considered, the covered services. Great. Will the patient owe you $500? They will, because that's deductible. But what about the other $500? That other $500 they still owe you because you billed it. This is why often people will choose in-network, because if they go in-network, then because you're limited to the fee, maybe that's where the $500 comes in. Now, there is something else that you'll see with these where you'll see there's an individual deductible. That's what we're talking about here, just a simple one. But you'll often see a family deductible. So let's say there's a family of 4. Each person may have $1,000 deductible, but maybe the family deductible is $2,500. So if other people in the family have met $2,500 towards deductible, that means it covers everyone in the family. So someone coming in who hasn't been to the doctor, that will be covered. So particularly when you're seeing a family, that family deductible could be a real important thing to note, that the patient has greater access just because they haven't gone if someone else has. So that's an added benefit that you'll find or see there. Now, what is actually, when you see the term copayment, this is often confused. What is a copayment? A copayment is a fixed amount for a covered service, generally for an in-network provider. When you're in network, you get exactly that. Like some of you are familiar, when you see an ASH patient or that type, it will say we're paying $50 and the patient's copay is 10. Well, what that means is the plan is going to pay 40 and you get to collect 10. That's the copayment. It's always fixed. It's a set amount, and it's part of the contract we have with an insurance. So think of a copayment as more of a payment when you are in network because it's a fixed set amount. Now, it's confusing because what about co-insurance? It's like, well, how is that any different, Sam? Well, the difference here, I'd like to make the designation, co-insurance means you're not in network, and it's the money difference that's not paid because there is no co-pay because they can't demand what you charge. So let's take an example. You bill $500. The patient has a plan that pays $200. Okay. They pay $200. How much does the patient owe you? Well, the insurance didn't pay for $300 of it. So the co-insurance is that difference, that $300. So this is where you can see why a lot of people choose in network because they can just control how much they know they're going to pay. Because of course that co-insurance is everything that you build. So again, I'm going to state to you, be conscientious that if you are not collecting the differences and you're out of network, you probably should just lower your fees because you're not collecting it anyway. And why set yourself up for a sense of fraud, meaning you're billing an amount you have no intention of collecting? So keep in mind the differences is the co-insurance. In other words, what's not paid by insurance out of network, and you get to balance bill for the full amount. Now that means, of course, you're no longer limited to their amounts, but now do the patients feel enough benefit from you to come in and pay that extra? And that's what we call balance billing. This is where you don't get a surprise. Balance billing is, or it can be a surprise, when a patient comes in and they thought, oh, I thought I was only going to pay $50, but it turns out they owe $250 because balance billing is the amount left over from what the insurance paid and that difference, again, out of network. Please be mindful. Make sure the patient's fully aware of your fees. Let them know our service is $100. Your insurance may pay some part or none of it. And so ultimately you may owe us $100. But let's say one patient's insurance pays $20, that patient owes you $80. Another patient's insurance pays $50, they owe you $50. In other words, you're still getting your $100, just different amounts from the patient depending on their plan. This is why I often will tell people that insurance is an aid. It's going to help pay for some of the care, not all of it. But if I can come to you and only have to pay $50 out of pocket instead of $100, would I be more likely to come in is it there? So that's balance billing. Balance billing is like co-insurance, if you will, but it's what's left over when you are out of network. Now you're going to see some where you'll find they'll say it's an out-of-pocket maximum. This you'll see maybe towards the end of the year. Let's say you have someone that's had pretty good sized illness, went to the doctor for something significant. Once they've met that out-of-pocket max for the year, the insurance actually pays 100%. So your bill of 100 will be paid 100. But one thing to keep in mind, this 100% is not of what you build. It's, again, always what they allow. So if you're in network, great. If you're out of network, it may or may not cover the full amount, but at least they're no longer going to put it into a place of the patient has an extra copay. Now, they might have extra co-insurance out of network. So out-of-pocket max just simply means once they've hit that, that plan continues to pay. These are ones that are good, particularly you might see towards the end of the year. Now, here's an important one. Where's an assignment of benefits? This is block 13. You'll see it towards the top here. And it says insured or authorized person's signature. I authorize the payment to be made to the provider of service. This is how you get the money. If you leave that blank, block 13, the money goes to the patient. So make sure your claims are assigned. If you don't assign the benefits, check goes to the patient. So if the patient's paid you in full, no problem. Let them get the money. But if they haven't, please make sure you've done the assignment. Keep in mind, unfortunately, if you are not part of Blue Cross and Blue Shield, often the assignment won't apply. Now, with other insurers, they have to follow it, but Blue Cross Blue Shield is exempt. So keep in mind, if someone has a plan Blue Cross Blue Shield, you're out of network, chances are it's better for them to just pay up front and let them know they're going to get the check from the insurance. That way you're not chasing after it. But assignment means they're assigning the payment to be made to you. Simply block 13 puts signature on file, meaning they've signed an assignment that's in the file. Now, when we hear the term self-pay, well, what does self-pay mean? Well, someone could have insurance, but they may not want to use it. So they're just a self-pay patient. This is a patient that says, I just want to pay cash. But can a person who has insurance be a self-pay patient? Actually, yeah, that's the United States. If a patient says, I don't want to use my insurance, do they have a right to do so? They do. One thing to keep in mind, though, if you're in network, can they make this choice? Yes. But make sure the patient signs a document in your office where they've said and agreed that I understand I have insurance and you're a member, but I do not want my insurance to be billed and I will pay out of pocket, understanding that I will not want my insurance billed by you or by myself. In other words, they're saying they want to be a 100% cash patient. Nothing wrong with that. You know, one of the reasons people may want to do that, do you know records can always be kept private? No one can get access as long as you pay cash. The only time an insurance company can get records is if they paid for it, if you will. But if a person is paid cash, they can completely hold them out. But this could be the case where someone just goes, my plan is terrible. I'd rather pay your cash rate. Well, nothing wrong with that. Now, this brings me to, what about offering cash discounts? We've done some other programs with that, but you're going to often see now for acupuncturists something called a discount health plan. These are not insurance. I want everyone to bear in mind, but what it does, it kind of creates your own little PPO. The patient joins this discount health plan. You're also a member. Now you can offer them a different price. In other words, like the insurance offering a discounted rate, you can do the same. So for those of you who want to offer steeper discounts for cash, well, you know, you can't unless you're in California. But otherwise, the best thing to do is maybe get in a discount health plan. The patient joins that. Now it allows you to offer like an insurance. Think of it. How is it that an insurance says you can't give a cash discount, but yet when you join ASH, they cut your fee to a third? Well, a discount health plan is your way of kind of doing that. You just have to make sure the patient's willing to participate and understands it. Realize someone with a discount health plan may come to you and say, do you take it? No, not unless you're a member. But this is a way that has been used to help people get care, particularly when they have high deductibles or have very bad insurance or no insurance. It can offer it in a way that it makes it affordable and changes it from your regular amount. And when we talk about regular amounts, what are we talking about? Usual, customary, and reasonable, UCR. This is the average amount paid in your area. I'm going to suggest take a look in your geographic region, take a look at your Medicare rates, take a look at what you see other providers charge, and kind of get a feel for, am I way undervaluing or overvaluing? I'm going to suggest go back to our other video that we did on relative values. But my concern is many offices often charge below, not understanding. If you're going to sell a house, wouldn't you look at the neighborhood to see, well, what are houses selling for? Because what if you're going to sell your house at half the price it's worth? Well, you're going to sell it, but it's way below market. You'll sell it in 3 seconds. So be careful of undervaluing, but also overvaluing. I want a way for you to look at your fees to make sure they're fair. That's what I do for our network members. Network members who join, that's one of the first things we do with the meeting is to go through, let's look at your fees. Are they reasonable? I will tell you my experience, acupuncturists bill 8 or 9 codes regularly. Probably of the 8 or 9, 6. I'm going to tell you half of you have fees that make no sense based on usual, customary, and reasonable. So what if someone says your fee is too high? If you go through this properly, your fee will never be too high because you'll know what that fee is going to be. I'm here to help. The American Acupuncture Council is always your advocate, as am I. We do that one-on-one service I mentioned. If you really want to get some help to really make your business thrive, come and see me. I look forward to seeing all of you in the future. And keep in mind, we'll be doing something later. There's going to be new codes beginning October 1st for diagnosis. We have seminars for that as well. Talk to you soon, everybody. Best wishes.